They used to laugh when they saw her bring a homemade lunch. They used to whisper behind her back because she didn't know how to pose for photos. They were convinced she was an outsider, not expensive enough to exist in their luxurious world. But in the end, they were the ones cast out of that world, not because she sought revenge, but because they proved themselves unworthy of staying. This isn't a story about a weak woman rescued by her husband. This is the story of a woman who was once underestimated, once silent, once endured it all, and then rose using the very kindness they trampled on to rebuild an empire. If you've ever been judged by your appearance, ever been quietly pushed out of a room just because you didn't fit the vibe, remember this. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to force strength to be respected. You just have to stand your ground until the truth speaks for itself. Leave a comment if this story resonates with you, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help spread the stories that make this world a little kinder. One story at a time. Thud. The sound of a lunchbox hitting the cold marble floor echoed through the grand lobby of Altara Holdings, one of the world's most luxurious financial investment firms. Someone scoffed, "Oops, I thought that was a garbage bag from the janitor staff." No one else reacted, no one stopped. Only polished leather shoes strode past, accompanied by indifferent glances, as if the woman had never existed. She bent down to pick up the box, wiped the oil stain with a tissue, and said nothing. Her hair was neatly tied back, her white blouse bore no logo, her shoes had no brand, and her scent was nothing remarkable. And that was precisely why they believed she didn't belong. But they were wrong. What they didn't know was that the woman they mocked today was the one holding the fate of the very building they stood in. And just a few days from now, they, the ones who thought they were above it all, would bow their heads in shame and apologize to the woman they once treated as invisible. She sat at her desk, a small corner tucked beside the side window where light barely filtered through the sheer white curtain. On her desk sat an old silver lunchbox, a soft leather notebook, and an outdated laptop. Everyone casually assumed was standard middle-tier equipment. Across from her, the marketing team whispered among themselves, "She still brings food from home. Must be saving up to buy her first proper outfit." Elise, the creative director, walked by, cast a sweeping glance, then remarked casually, "We should really invest in the office's aesthetic. Can't let one person drag down the entire floor's vibe." Laughter followed, clipped, deliberate, sharp as needles. A female employee named Vanessa added with a smirk, "I once saw her using a brick phone. Must be a souvenir from the past." A young intern nodded and murmured, "But how did she end up working on the management floor?" No one answered. No one cared to find out, because to them, appearance was enough to judge someone's worth and character. Emma stayed silent, but in her notebook, the one others assumed held mundane work notes. Every word, every face, every moment of ridicule had been recorded, not to remember, but to never forget. The strategy meeting took place on Monday morning inside the glass conference room on the executive floor, where a single nod could move hundreds of millions of dollars. Emma sat at the far end of the table, quietly flipping through the presentation she had revised over 3 sleepless nights. Elise, draped in the latest Versace dress, her voice laced with authority and a habit of appropriation, stood up, flashed the first slide, and confidently announced, "This is the concept I developed to reposition the brand for the upcoming quarter." Every word Elise read out was written by Emma, every idea carefully structured, every sentence chosen with precision down to the last period. No one knew, no one cared. A regional director turned to Emma with a smirk. "Do you have any thoughts, or is it a bit over your head?" Laughter erupted around the table, unfiltered and cruel. Emma simply pressed her lips together, closed the folder, and said nothing, neither rebutting nor denying. But the moment Elise stepped out of the room, every executive's phone lit up with the same email, no sender name, just an attachment, inside the original version of the entire plan. Edit timestamps, metadata. Every line points clearly to the real author. No accusation, no complaint, just the truth. And in a world where reputations are built on PowerPoint slides and growth metrics, truth is the deadliest weapon of all. 3 days later, precisely at noon, every employee in the creative and executive departments received an urgent email. All personnel report to conference room, alpha mandatory. No absences allowed. No one knew what was going on. They filed in, eyes uneasy, the usual scent of expensive perfume lingering in the air. But instead of Elise or the executive director taking the stage, Emma walked in. No documents, no laptop, no assistants, just a small ID badge on her chest, engraved with Emma Lane, president and founder. The room fell silent. Elise went pale. Vanessa swallowed hard. The whispers froze mid-air. Emma glanced around. Her face showed no anger, no arrogance, just calmness, like someone who had seen this moment coming. Long ago, she placed a single USB drive onto the control panel. The screen behind lit up, playing one by one, a series of voice recordings, emails, screenshots, and security footage. All of it. Proof of the insults, credit theft, and discriminatory behavior she had endured over the past weeks. No narration, no explanation. Just the truth, cold as steel, clear as the white light flooding the room. She waited until the final clip ended, then finally spoke. Her voice was steady, deliberate, and sharp as a blade. No one in this room ever knew who I really was. The room had barely begun to recover from the cascade of shameful footage when Emma stepped onto the central platform. White light bathed her shoulders as if the entire space and all the falseness within it was being stripped bare. She opened the list in her hand. One by one, names were read aloud in a voice devoid of emotion, but so sharp it sent chills down every spine. Elise Vale, creative director, recorded offenses, plagiarism, credit theft, employee discrimination, and use of offensive personal remarks. Decision: permanent termination. All system access is revoked immediately. A 10-year employment ban across all Altara Holdings subsidiaries. Elise shot up, trembling. You can't do this." Emma didn't even look at her. She simply turned to the security guards behind her. "Escort her out. She no longer belongs here." No one spoke. No one stood up for Elise, a once celebrated figure known for her perfume and confident stride, now bowed her head and exited the room like a fugitive. But Emma wasn't finished. Vanessa Holt, communications officer, recorded 17 discriminatory remarks over 23 days, plus 2 instances of spreading false rumors. Decision: demoted and reassigned to the Data Archive Division. No promotion consideration for 3 years. Vanessa screamed in protest, but no one answered. The same people who once laughed with her now lowered their heads in silence. Emma continued. Derek Shaw, strategic consultant, recorded actions inciting group hostility, spreading anonymous emails, and making classist remarks about income. Decision: immediate termination. Must issue a public written apology within 24 hours or face legal action for workplace defamation. One name after another, one sentence after the next. Every punishment, every trembling glance surfaced inside a boardroom, once used only to negotiate $100 million deals. Now it was where Emma delivered justice. the kind no one ever expected to come from someone like her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't pound the table. She didn't cast blame. She ruled with the calm force of someone who understands. True power doesn't lie in volume. It lies in being uncompromising in the face of injustice. After the final name was read, the room sank into a heavy silence. The same people who once crossed their legs with arrogance now sat stiffly like schoolchildren awaiting punishment in front of a disciplinary board. Emma quietly closed the folder in her hands. She didn't look at anyone. Her voice rose, slow, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. I didn't hide my identity to test you. I didn't disguise myself for some anonymous power play. I just wanted to know. If I were an ordinary woman, no name, no designer labels, no spotlight, would I still be treated with basic human respect? She paused for a few seconds. No one dared meet her eyes. Then she continued her tone, dropping as though peeling back each layer of the room's facade. I was once a girl who worked 2 jobs to pay for college. I once washed dishes 10 hours a day just to afford my first interview suit. I've been rejected, not because I wasn't capable, but because I didn't look like success. And that's exactly why I built this company, to make sure no one was ever looked down on just because they chose simplicity. She turned to face the glass wall, reflecting the entire high-end boardroom, then back to the room. But I was wrong. I built this place and let you turn it into a runway of pretense. You brought in false power, dressed in logos, collars, and overpriced shoes. And today, I'm erasing it all. She stepped toward the large projector screen and pressed a button. The company's old logo shattered and disappeared. In its place, a new slogan appeared, simple, but as powerful as a declaration of war. Respect has no tiers. Worth has no price. The ones who once mocked her now bowed their heads, not out of fear for their jobs, but because for the first time in their lives, they realized they had underestimated the wrong person, and now they had to live with that shame. The next day, the entire management floor was summoned again. This time not to hear an announcement, but to receive a brand new operational code written by Emma herself. No fluff, no corporate jargon, just one bold headline printed in all caps at the top of the first page. At Altara, you are not allowed to judge anyone until you know who they are. The vacant positions weren't filled with flashy MBA holders or Ivy League alumni. They were filled by people who had once been rejected for not fitting the brand image. A middle-aged woman who used to work in janitorial services was appointed operations manager because she had devised a meticulous plan to optimize storage processes step by step. A programmer once dismissed for dressing differently was now in charge of the internal AI systems. What the office didn't yet realize was this: Emma wasn't just replacing people, she was retraining their entire way of seeing others. In the meeting rooms, ideas were no longer judged by volume or by the brand names of the speakers, but by the true value of what was being said. A group of interns once laughed at by Elise was now invited to present their ideas to the leadership team. Outside the pantry, a new digital board was installed. It read, "This area is for everyone. No one is less classy for feeding their dreams with homemade meals." Everyone who passed by stopped, if only for a second, to read it. No one dared to mock anymore, not because they feared Emma, but because they finally understood kindness was now the standard for survival, and those who had once sneered at her, they now stood as living examples, not of failure, but of life's most expensive lessons. The final week of the company's transformation ended with an all-hands meeting. No party, no champagne, no red carpet. Just a simple stage, a single empty chair, and one familiar lunchbox placed right at the center. Emma stepped up, carrying nothing but a voice calm, steady, yet forged in steel. I didn't come here for revenge. I came to remind everyone of this. A person doesn't need to be rich to be respected, but an organization becomes poor the moment it loses its kindness. No one spoke. Some bowed their heads, some wiped their eyes, and among them all, she walked forward, picked up her lunchbox, and turned to the audience one last time. If you've ever been looked down upon, remember, you don't have to scream to prove your worth. You only need to stand firm and wait for the moment the world has no choice but to listen. She stepped off the stage. No background music, no applause. But as she walked past the main aisle, the very people who once mocked her, those who used to sit in the highest seats, stood up. None dared meet her gaze, but everyone knew they had just witnessed the moment true power walked past in the form of an ordinary woman carrying a lunchbox and a conscience that couldn't be bought. The glass doors closed behind Emma, reflecting a world that would never be the same, and for years to come, people would still say she didn't make the company bow because of her power. She made them bow from the shame of their own pettiness. Emma was a simple woman. Every day, she brought a homemade lunch to the office. She wore no extravagant makeup, no designer labels, and never sought attention. In a workplace where a person's worth was judged by the logo on their shirt and the price of their shoes, she quickly became the target of ridicule. Colleagues whispered behind her back. Superiors sneered openly. The company treated her like a stain on its polished image. She was excluded from meetings, had her work stolen, and was mocked in public, all because she didn't look the part. What no one knew was that this seemingly ordinary woman was the secret founder and president of the entire company Emma had been watching, silently recording every insult, every wrongdoing, every face that turned away from her. She never lashed out, never complained. She just waited for the right moment to bring it all into the light. And that moment came. She walked into the boardroom, revealed her true identity, and played back every piece of evidence in front of those who once deemed her an outsider. She fired the ringleaders, demoted the accomplices, and forced everyone involved to publicly apologize. But she didn't do it out of vengeance. She did it to cleanse a system that had rotted with arrogance and prejudice. Emma rebuilt the company culture from the ground up, introducing new rules. Respect is not a reward for the wealthy. It's a non-negotiable standard for all. She rehired those once rejected for being too plain and created opportunities for the kind-hearted souls the world had overlooked. She didn't need to raise her voice to reclaim her dignity. She just had to stand firm and act. And in the end, it was that quiet strength that made an entire company bow, not out of fear, but out of shame. I have no excuse for what I did. I was wrong the moment I judged her for that faded lunchbox, for the shirt without a logo, for the silence I mistook as weakness. At the time, I thought my words were just jokes, just another part of everyday office banter. But now, I understand, I helped build a toxic environment where kindness was mocked and arrogance was applauded. She doesn't owe me forgiveness, but if anyone here should be bowing their head in apology, it's me. I saw her true worth, far too late. I used to believe she didn't belong here, but now, I know I'm the one who doesn't deserve to share a room with her. If I could go back, I would be the first to sit beside her, to listen to what she had to say, instead of laughing with the crowd at something I never took the time to understand. This story isn't just a satisfying reversal that makes us cheer. It's a wake-up call about the way we treat others, simply because they don't fit the image society glorifies. Emma didn't walk in wearing power. She didn't wear $1 million watch, didn't strut in red heels, didn't order lunch from five-star restaurants. She came in with a lunchbox and a silence heavier than any strategic meeting. They laughed at her, dismissed her, trampled her dignity as if it were worthless. But they forgot one thing. The silence of a kind person can sometimes be the most dangerous weapon. Emma didn't strike back with harsh words. She didn't scream for justice. Instead, she punished each one with truth principle and the icy calm of someone who knows they're right and doesn't need to prove it. The biggest lesson here: true power isn't found in titles or money. It's in how you hold on to your character in a world built on pretense. And here's my view crystal clear. You don't need to look like anyone else. You just need the courage to live by your values and the patience to prove them through action. If this story touched you, if you've ever been overlooked for being too ordinary or pushed aside because you didn't fit a mold, then I hope you won't stay silent. Share this story. Let more people understand kindness is a choice and a strength no one can take from you. And if you want to keep walking with stories that are emotional, surprising, and deeply human, don't forget to follow and subscribe to Toch Story today, because here we tell the stories no one dares to say, but everyone needs to understand.